Shalom, people. If y'all know me, y'all know that I'm always diving into some type of book or reading or trying to expound my information, especially about my culture, because I'm in America. How can I know more about my culture unless people have documented it? I can't experience it in America. So now, this is the book that I copped, The Eighth Day, The Hidden History of the Jewish Contribution to Civilization. And it breaks down all of the things, and you can see it right there. Y'all can pause it later and read it. I know, that's big. Yeah. That's humongous. Yeah. Well, sweetie, get out of here. I'll talk to you later. Get out of here. I like you. Can I have it? Okay. I'm going to come get it later. All right, y'all. But this is some of the information. You can actually pause it later. But let's just look through some of the stuff that I came across. I like doing a lot of glancing, quick reading real fast. One of the sections, other Jewish communities under Greek and Roman rule. I think this is where I got it from. Let's see here. Yes, this is it. I'm just going to read some of the stuff that it has. It says, a massive immigration of Jews into Egypt occurred under Ptolemy I, about the year 312 BCE. What's that? AOSDs relate that some 10 years later, 100,000 Jews were enslaved and brought to Egypt by Ptolemy. Well, doesn't that look like Deuteronomy 28:68 to you? And you will go to Egypt again on ships. Now, of course, it don't say ships right here, right? But we have maybe documented history where the Jews were taken back to Egypt in the BC time. This is before Christ, right? This is the old days. So this is not has anything to do with 1619. This actually occurred in the BC era. The Jews were enslaved and brought to Egypt by Ptolemy. There's your Deuteronomy 28:68. See? But, I mean, I just got this book today and I'm going through it. Well, let's keep reading. The 30,000 most stalwart young Jews of military age were assigned to man the fortresses, no doubt positioned in the most vulnerable post, being considered expendable. The other 70,000 Jewish slaves were distributed among the soldiers, and we may well assume that they served by performing all the skilled labor required for the available Egyptian labor force. So, available Egyptian labor force was more than adequate for menial work, and manual labor was beneath the dignity of the Greeks. But let's see if I can keep going on. I want to go right here. Third paragraph. The Jews made up a significant proportion of the population of the other areas of Lower Egypt. Now, what color was the Egyptians, everybody? we all know this, okay? The original Egyptians were black. We know this. So now we have the Jews making up a great number of the Egyptian or Lower Egypt. So now this makes you ask, some of the stuff that they're bringing out dealing with the lower part of Egypt with this archaeological evidence and all that stuff. Is this actually Egyptians or are these Jews now? since the Jews were actually in Egypt right along the Egyptians in the BC era. Once again, this is BC. This is around 300 BC. All right. So now it's making, I mean, if you actually read and dig into it, it's making you think that now, you know, maybe some of these black people that they was calling Egyptians were actually Jews, since there was a large Jewish community in Egypt. So now let's keep reading. Others lived in the rural Delta area, where some owned farms and others managed the farms of Greek landowners. Philo states that the population of Jews in Egypt reached 1 million during this period, out of a total population of 7,500,000 Egyptians of both Upper and Lower Egypt. So now, if this is, have you researched that the real Jerusalem is in South Africa? No, I haven't went through that yet. I haven't researched that. I came across, but you can, if you have the site, you can cite it on this video, and I would show love to actually go through it. But I promised my wife I wasn't gonna be on here too long, so I'm just gonna finish reading this paragraph, my brother, and we will actually have to link up later on. Mr. Sabali, where? We'll have to link up later on, because I know that you probably have some information that you would love to drop. So we can link that up later on. I can't do it today though, brother, but we can link it up. Boy, it seems like you have some information, so don't forget about me. But we see that we have Jews inside of Egypt reaching 1 million. So these are already 1 million Jews inside of Africa. So before 70 AD, the Jews already had a fairly large community in Africa, especially around Lower Egypt. So it makes you think. I mean, it just makes you think. The million Jews fled into Africa in Babylon to Timbuktu, it really is not relevant to say that we are Israelites because of that, because now we see that there was Jews throughout Africa anyway. Not just those million that fled into Jerusalem. It was Jews already throughout Egypt and Africa. So now, Egyptians of both Upper and Lower Egypt. It was a round figure, but not unreasonable. Although ghettoization had not become a common practice, the groups tended to live in separate districts, and in Alexandria alone, 2 out of the 5 districts that made up the city were Jewish. That's why we have a lot of work from those Alexandria Jews. Philo was an Alexandrian Jew. So now, let's see if we can keep reading. Let's see. Let's see. I read something else also. Let me see if I can find it real fast. I'm just going to read this last thing and then I'm going to have to call it. It says, the social status of the Jews under Ptolemy II, even that of the former slaves, placed in pursuits that reflected their literacy. In recognition of their superiority in the arts, science, and commerce, that they were granted rights that the Egyptians employed for heavy compulsory work as common laborers were unable to enjoy. Trying to read through my phone is kind of hard. Trying Egyptians who were not at work in the fields were engaged in the construction of dikes, road building and maintenance, canal repair, and performed as porters and the like. Native Egyptians were thus degraded to the lowest level, a people without status or rights, while one set of aliens ruled their land with a heavy hand, and the other aliens enjoyed the special privileges accruing to artisans and entrepreneurs. It was during the time of this very Ptolemy II Philadelphus that Manetho wrote his Egyptian history. The irksome favoritism shown the Jews was surely one of the causes of the festering hatred that Manetho bore towards the Jews. It's something else that I read in here. I had to find it. But in other words, it was saying, let me see if it's right here. Maybe it's on the, let me see if it's on this page. All right, y'all, hold on. Let me see if I can find it real fast. All right, I'm just going to read right here, then I'll be done. It's talking about the Jews under the Greek and Roman, right? It says a massive number of Jews. Sorry. Let me try to get comfortable. A massive number of Jews can be discerned in the events that shaped the classical period at the time of the destruction of the first temple in Jerusalem. The greatest concentration of Jews were in Judea. The population of Judah at that time has been estimated at somewhat more than 150,000 out of a world population of Jews that was certainly considerably less than 500,000. The rise to a figure that indeed may have approached 10 million by the mid-1st century CE can clearly not be attributed to natural increase. What was the dynamic then, by which such a phenomenon increased occurred? When did it occur? And why do we find so little reference to Jewish presence in extant literature and so few representative archaeological relics in the garbage and graves of these past civilizations? These perplexing questions wax even more persistent when, in addition to the conspicuous explosion in the spread and size of Jewish communities, which was evident through the Hellenistic period and continued well into the Common Era, account is taken of the caliber of those communities and of the strategic sites in which they were located. How does it happen that we find Jewish communities always solidly ensconced within the creative heart of the societies to which they were exiled? Why, in an essentially agrarian age, were Jewish slaves rarely among the millions tilling the soil, but were systematically implanted within urban centers, at all of the important ports, and at all of the commercial crossroads? So in other words, they're saying, why is there not a lot of Jewish history if it's known that the Jews were everywhere throughout this world, this realm in the late BC, early AD era? We know the Jews was everywhere in every community around the important people in the Eastern world. Why come there's not a lot of background evidence? There should be a lot of literature. There should be a lot of archaeological evidence, but it is not. Why? That's the question that the author have, and we know that they hid the history. So this is a little something for the Negroes out there, to let them know that it's still more works coming out about our past. We were more than just slaves. We had a whole nother life. But now we're under Christ. All praise to the Most High.